This is our first session, your own personal information, login credentials, all that good stuff. And then we're going to dive into my accounts, which will be obviously near and dear to our hearts when it comes to creating, assigning, and sharing accounts. We're going to work through that. And then move into my opportunities, which will cover creating, editing, and of course our forecasting process that we'll get into a little more deeper level. As well as we'll touch on dashboards and reports, just kind of show you guys how to extract data and information out of the system to help you manage your customers, help you manage your pipeline, your quotas, whatever you want to take a look at. There's a lot of powerful tools here to help you manage that environment. So this is the agenda, and then we're going to jump right into the system. Again, I've got, I think right now, about 8 or 9 folks on this particular call. We had, I think, originally around 12 or 13, which is fine, but just keep in mind that we're going to be recording it. We'll be posting these out to the Imagine Communications YouTube site for further recollection, or if anytime you want to go back through it. I did want to touch again that the training that we will be loading into the MyImagine Academy is the online training that you can take at any time. These are going to be modules that are kind of go through what we're going through today versus live what we're doing today, but these are the modules that will cover all the basics and then allow you to go to that anytime. You don't need VPN connection. Just go to MyImagine Academy, and we'll cover that a little bit. But that should be loaded this evening, if not tomorrow morning, and then that way you guys can go up and do some additional follow-up, as well as the YouTube site. Again, will be primarily for these recordings, but then we will also have the ability to record any particular one-off topics, anything that we're seeing as a common, confusion points or things like that, or just shortcuts, tips and tricks. That's where we're going to have those out there. They could be as short as 2 minutes. They could be as short as 30 seconds. It just depends. It just gives us the freedom to post some things out there. So, all right. So let's jump into the system itself. All right. Okay. So here we are logged into Salesforce. Again, just as a point of order, we are still working in this test environment, so this is not the live environment. However, the live environment is starting to look about 99% as much as the test environment. So when you guys get your logins for May 6th, that will obviously be in the live environment, and you'll have visibility to your contacts and accounts and all that good stuff. So here there's still a limited amount of data, so keep that in mind. All right, so when we go into our home page, this is essentially your dashboard that you have as a default, and then we're going to just really cover real quick on how do I customize some of the stuff that I see. So from the home page, we're going to go right here to Customize Page on the far right, and this gives us the ability to drill down into our personal information. So everybody's going to be defaulted, obviously, with their credentials, but anything that's here from an address, location, time zone, that kind of stuff is all things that you can change if something changes from that standpoint. Everything else will default to standard items. From a change password perspective, this is where you go to change your password. If you want to change it while you're in the system, you feel like keeping track of a new password, that's fine. You can do that there. But when you get your initial logins, you'll be obviously prompted to create a password and then a checksum question to do authentication. One note on this, I just wanted to make sure you guys understand, Salesforce is obviously a cloud solution, and you can log in from anywhere, but if you log in from your work laptop and then you want to log in from your home laptop or a public workstation, just know that it's going to require a second level of authentication, which means it will just ask you to put in a mobile number, and it will send you a 4-digit code and validate that device is who you are. And then you'd log in again with your normal credentials. But just remember that that's the second step if you jump over to a new machine. But once you have it done, then it's done. So if it's something that you're going to use again and again, then you don't have to worry about it. Again, language, time zones, obviously that's going to be set to your particular locale based on your address. I did want to make one note, since obviously we are an international company. The language settings in Salesforce obviously are standard English, but if you do want to change them to German, Spanish, French, so on and so forth, what that really does is it changes the primary language of the setting. So your objects here would change into that language. Some of the fields would change, but just keep in mind that it's about, 40 to 50% of that language, and the rest of it's in English. So it can be localized enough to say you can use it that way, but then just know that not every field is going to be in that language, just the majority of the navigation. Just want to point that out. And then here, for the most part, this is really about all you'll typically mess with in your personal profile. You do have some ability to change your layout and display, meaning your tabs. So all here, your objects are called your tabs as well, so home, chatter, leads, accounts, etc. These you can rearrange in a particular order. These are going to be the defaults, but you can add a few. I wouldn't recommend cluttering this too much because at the end of the day, there's only so many things you use. But just know that you can manipulate this a little bit to your liking. So if you wanted dashboards at the very far left as an example, you can certainly do that. As well as if you guys are logged in from your LinkedIn perspective, or you have Facebook information or whatever, these are social networks that you can essentially attach from a login perspective so you can stay logged in through Salesforce. Okay. So also your homepage settings page will also have shortcuts for these quick links. And the most common things obviously are change my password and then change my email and chatter notifications. This is also an area you guys might want to take a look at just because you don't know how much you want to get peppered with emails or chatter, as we'll go into here in a little bit, but this is kind of where you'd go control that. So if you want to just get notified on everything there is, then everything can be left checked. And if you want to, scale that back or dial that back a little bit, here's where you control it. So just remember, like anything else you subscribe to, sometimes the default is, get emails or access to everything, but know that this is the place that you can control it, is the notification settings. Okay. So generally speaking, that's pretty much something that you might play around with for a little bit, and then, once you're familiar with the environment, then you probably will have that set pretty static. Again, just general navigation, you've got this blue tab here can be minimized or maximized just by these small little ribbon arrows here on the left. So you squeeze that down there, you'll get the full screen, or you can open it back up. What this really gives you is like if you're in the system on a regular basis, obviously this will give you the most recent areas of the system that you've been in. So, here I logged into our sales user test. I was looking at an account called Seattle Seahawks. I was looking at a quote. So these are just shortcuts to go back to that particular record versus having to go hunt it back down or go about it. So it just saves you a few steps. And then these are a few additional links that we haven't finalized yet exactly what they're going to end up doing, but for the most part, this is where your recent activity would be. And then if you want to create something new, this is just another shortcut area. Again, kind of replicates what's up here at the top, but other than that, that's pretty much it. Quick note on the dashboard. So this is a sample dashboard of what a sales RSM or inside rep will have. These will continue to vary and fluctuate depending on regions and what they might need, but this is kind of the common static. So this would cover an individual's pipeline, what they've got forecasted, and things that are in the funnel. So we're trying to hit the most common things that people might want to take a look at initially. As additional dashboards will be made available, this is where you can go customize this as well, and I'll show you guys how to do that. But dashboards are something that has more visibility than this, but from your home page, it gives you sort of like the abbreviated version of it, which would be 3 primary screens. Okay. So let's go into accounts. One of the most common things, obviously, in a system is you want to make sure you can see, how do I see my accounts? How do I see my customers? That's a critical point, and, near and dear to every salesperson's heart, just want to make sure that the account information is accessible and ready to see. So when we go into the accounts tab, you're going to see, again, most recent activity. So this is an example of something that I had been looking at recently. And then you can always drill down on any of these particular accounts, but this is something that you can see from just My Accounts tab. Process from the standpoint of creating a new account, we're just going to go here to click New. You have a choice of creating this as a direct customer or a channel partner. Most RSMs more than likely may not be creating too many channel partner account types, but if you do, just know that that's just going to be tracked as a channel partner automatically. And then direct obviously is a standard customer. And the explanations are here as well, so the description, so you can see that. So if we click here to direct, there's essentially two primary fields that are required, the account name and then the type. So if we go ahead and create something new here, let's call these guys the Dallas Cowboys. No, that's already been used. Sorry, we're going, and that's been used too. How about Dallas Mavericks? We're sports guys here, so we focus on that. So we're going to key in the name, and then this is where you select the type. And the difference, obviously, is end customer is going to be a regular customer that you may have additional sites or locations that you're setting up an account for, or it's an existing relationship that you know you're going to win some business on, so they're going to be a customer. Prospect, obviously, is just that. It's somebody that I've met, talked to at a trade show, I've met at a meeting, and they're interested in I want to go ahead and start creating some opportunities and activities for them. I'd set them up as a prospect. And then obviously for service, if you have the need to create a service-related account, you can do that as well. So if you happen to know any additional content, their website, their telephone number, things like that, you're free to add those as well. But the name and type is really the primary, so just to make this a quick process. So once I have that, I click Save. And the next step is going to be the address. So you're going to get a prompt here that says address is required, and the good thing is it is required, but it is not necessary to do it at this particular step. So let's just say that's all I know right now is their name, maybe their website and phone number, and I'll worry about the address later. You can go back and add that later, but just know that you cannot proceed with much more activity until you enter their address. So if you happen to know the address today, you'd scroll down here to new address, and you're going to key that in. So let's just say this is headquarters. We're going to have their address here in Dallas. Key in their country. Obviously Texas. And then currency you're going to leave obviously as a common currency for that country. And then the only thing to note here that unfortunately is not highlighted right now is you need to check off Salesforce primary. So right here, this is going to be left unchecked. You need to check that. That pretty much just ties that together with the record, with the opportunities. And then once this account, hopefully turns into some business in the near future, as an example, then once an order is processed, then an account will be created for Oracle. And then I'll show you guys the difference between the accounts that are created and the Oracle accounts. So once I save this, I'm pretty much ready to go from the standpoint of this account. So all we're really doing here is just validating any particular information, whatever I keyed in. Obviously, it's going to timestamp it, who created it and when and what time, as an example. And then if you know a particular contact for it, you could add it here at this particular moment. And then these addresses will start to display once the activity is moving forward on it. So again, right here, Salesforce primary is checked. Don't worry about the ship to and bill to yet. That will come together as activity commences. So that's pretty much it from setting up an account. So let's take a look at looking for accounts. So right now, again, you're always going to have your most recent that you looked at, but obviously, in this particular example, there's, say, 10 or 20 accounts, and that's really all there is. But if you are a sales rep and you own 100 or 200 or whatever it might be, how do I find those? So what we recommend is there's multiple ways to search for things, but the best thing to do from a Salesforce perspective, if you just know one common thing, which we all typically would, is obviously the customer's name. And a customer's name can be searched for here in the global box. So this search box here up at the top is what we call just global search, very Google-like. The results that it brings back are just related threads to that account. So if I'm looking for the Miami Dolphins, anything related to Miami Dolphins will essentially pull up. If it's the direct account, then obviously it'll come right up as an example. So that anything that would be related from a contact perspective, from an opportunity perspective, from a quote perspective, anything that's been created will come up on this lookup screen. So you're not having to go to multiple different places to search for it. So that's kind of just real simple search. The other key thing is, from a visibility standpoint, is list views. So list views are very similar to what you guys might be familiar with in Siebel. It's the ability to look at my accounts, my team's accounts, and then recently viewed accounts. Now, and then all accounts as well. let me make a differentiation between what accounts, my accounts and my team's accounts. So my accounts would be anything that belongs to me, and I am the only owner of that account. Nobody else is tied to it. Probably not going to be a common thing other than a brand new account. So let's say I have an associated a colleague to it, whether it's a engineer or a inside sales rep, whatever it might be. That's what my team's accounts are. So my team's accounts will be all the accounts that I have that are shared essentially with a counterpart, colleague, inside engineer, as an example. That's the difference. So what we can do, so these are defaults. All my teams are all defaults. Let's say I want to create my own view. So once I've got hundreds of accounts in here, how do I keep track of it from a certain perspective? So this is where learning a little bit about list views can help you guys just shortcut navigate. So if we go back here to create new view, this is essentially where you're going to be able to do that. All you have to do is call it a name. So let's say we wanted to call it accounts that are active or accounts in a certain state, whatever that might be. These are the fields that you would select. So it's going to be filtered by my accounts because you're the owner, as an example. And here's all the different criteria that you can pick. So essentially all the different fields that are available to you, you can select. So if you wanted to say, I want to have all accounts that have a website listed to it, as an example, you can bring that up. And what that does essentially is that you save that view, and that will give you an additional view here under all my, so that it would be created here under this list view. So then that would give you that shortened, condensed view of just accounts that have a website versus looking at all the accounts all the time. You're free to pick and choose whatever you might find, but again, this is just a shortcut to just be able to get to see data that you want to see. But just remember that all accounts are there. That will always pull everything up, or then you can always do a global search. So there's multiple ways to search for your data here. There's multiple ways for you to view your data, depending on what you're comfortable with, depending on how much time you want to save. And I don't want it to take even 30 seconds to find an account. I want to be able to find stuff immediately. List views are going to be your friend. I mean, that's really the best place that I would say, saves time to just go find specific things. And as you discover, what's in there, what shouldn't be in there, we'll go over that a little bit as well in terms of, modifications. All right. So we're in a good pace here. We're about 24 minutes in. Okay, so let's go into contacts. It's pretty simple. Again, recent contacts are the ones that I've looked at in the past session that I've been logged into. Creating a new contact is pretty simple. Obviously, you just need first, last name. We're going to call this maybe not y'all's favorite person, but clicking on the account is really all you're going to do from an association standpoint. So that will select the account automatically, and then an email address is really the only second field that's required. And then the other additional details if you might have. Loading contact information from the standpoint of yourself is just really, obviously a manual process, but if you guys have a list of contacts that would say be 20, 30, 40, 50, that you wanted in there loaded for a particular account that you don't see, or let's just say they're brand new, or somebody gave you that, virtual Rolodex, if you will, we can load those in there for you from a mass load perspective. So if you have one or two, obviously no reason that you couldn't do that yourself, but if you have a large quantity that needs to be loaded in, you just let us know from the standpoint of being able to load that for you. We can get that done, and we'll cover that off in future sessions about how to request that, but just know that that's available. Okay, so I've got a new contact in here. What you'd want to do here, this is always going to prompt you as a reminder, and you can click on Don't Show Again, but really what this is you've created a new contact. It's a good time to send a stay in touch email. Do you want to do that now? Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but if you click yes, just know that it's going to launch a email template that we have right now that we can play around with as well, but this is just essentially sending something directly from Salesforce. You're not having to go back out to Outlook and do this. You could do this directly out of Salesforce and customize this message, whatever it might be. It's pretty cool. So it just gives you that ability. And then once that's done, you can also tie in specific activity to it. So just the account, the contact is a contact, but then there's other additional things. So once they're tied into an account, obviously opportunities are going to be present, cases are going to be present, so all that data will be connected. Okay. From a social networking perspective, just know that, if I set this contact up and I'm logged into LinkedIn, I can click here in LinkedIn and you can essentially just pass through logging into LinkedIn from Salesforce. We don't have any connectivity built into it yet from a total integration as an example, but just know that that's just a shortcut to get to LinkedIn. So if you wanted to request to be connected to George Bush here in LinkedIn, you could do that through here, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So these are just your social media shortcuts to get in there. And then also you could upload a picture if you wanted to, if you happen to have one. It's just, it's up to you guys. All right. Pretty simple there with contacts. Okay, so let's go jump into opportunities. So opportunities obviously are near and dear to our hearts. It's kind of what we work through from our pipeline and generating activity. So opportunities work very much the same as accounts that we covered. You've got most recent that are viewed. You've got the list views again, and I've saved a couple of different options here. But all opportunities, for now, just know that you can view all opportunities, but if they are not in your region, we're going to set it up where, if you're a Europe-based account, if you're a Europe-based RSM, you won't be able to see North America opportunities as an example, but for right now, you could have visibility to something, but right now I would not be able to go and edit anything, and this is what you would not be able to see. Final product of what that's going to look like will be determined between now and the end of the week, but from a security perspective or just visibility perspective, and we're trying to do a careful balance of making sure that we're not locking people out of any data that they should see, and making sure we're not giving people free reign access to things that they shouldn't see. So we'll get that worked out, but just know that that's going to be solidified here. Okay, so obviously when we go to opportunities, we're going to again take a look at our most recent as an example. But let's say let's go through an example of a brand new opportunity. So I just went and talked to a customer. It's an existing customer, and they're interested in whatever type of product. I'm going to go in here and create a new opportunity. And I just want to show you guys just really how simple it is from the standpoint of just getting this fired off and getting it done, where you don't necessarily have an immediate next step or how to make that happen for the next step. So again, we've got three options. We've got direct sales, we've got indirect sales, which is a channel opportunity, and we'll go through a little detail on that. And then we've got trials. Trials obviously is the option if you're going to set up a demo test equipment for a customer, and we'll go through that. So obviously the most common one is going to be direct sales. So continue. Again, only 4 fields are required, so we're going to put in a name here. We're going to associate it to an account. We're going to pick a close date. You happen to know that. It obviously just needs to be in the future. And then here are our stages. So this is a good point or a good time to kind of review that. So the sales stages have all been brought over from Siebel, but we've consolidated them just to make things simpler. So now we are down to 7 sales stages. And the wording or nomenclature is exactly the same as it was before, but just know that anything in a sales stage 1, 2, or 3 is not going to require a quote to be generated at that time. Once you get to sales stage 4, then that's when a forecast commit obviously is existing, and then the obvious PO and house close one loss. So just know that that's been consolidated to 7. So once we pick a sales stage, for now, this is all we know. We're just at a prospect level. We hit save, and that's pretty much it. So just to get an opportunity fired off and started from a record perspective, that's pretty much all you have to do. So once that's created, you're going to get this stamped here. So in this particular account, this is where I want to show you guys. Everybody wants to know, well, who's on this account or who's going to be able to do some activity on it besides myself. So this is where the opportunity team comes into play. So we're setting these up with, all the accounts are going to be set up with the default teams, meaning if you're the owner, you're the owner. If you have a counterpart, that's going to be also loaded in there, and this is where you come see it. So in this example for Denver Broncos, my name is in here as an opportunity team member, and it gives you my role, so I'm a pre-sales SE. That was automatically added in there because of the default. And that just means that that person or that could be able to work on that opportunity to take it further or just modify the record, right? So let's say I just keyed that in, I'm at this basic sales stage, and then I'm not going to touch that again for, say, that like the next week, but then I need somebody else to maybe take a look at it or work on it. As long as they're on the opportunity team, then they can do that. And then you can add additional individuals by just clicking the Add button here. You're going to select them as a user, and then you're just be keying in their last name, and you can find them. You can select that person. Typical scenario would be a sales rep as an example. And here's the key access. So read-only would mean just giving them access to visibility to see what's going on. And read-write, obviously you'd want them to select that if you want them to go and edit and change and make modifications to that opportunity. So once that's selected, hit save, and then they're going to be added into the opportunity team. And then that's pretty much it. So that they're ready to go on this particular opportunity. And then hopefully we'll have time here to cover off how the quickest way to communicate that to that other individual that we added. Okay, so if we go back in here, these generate obviously an opportunity ID. Everybody, there's individuals that may follow this numbering convention to remember that number. Probably most won't, but obviously, if I go back into the system 3 days later and go, I know I created an opportunity for the Denver Broncos, I would be able to find that just by going to the most recent activity, as well as the account itself. Okay, so here's an example. We've got this account that we've been playing with a lot of opportunities for the Denver Broncos. So here is my Mayflowers one that I created, and I go back in and drill down on that, and I'm ready to do a quote for this. So what I'd want to do is I'd want to set up the sales stage back to sales stage 4. So I'm ready to forecast commit. Once I hit save, then it's going to prompt me with the ship date and the requested on-site. This just needs to be selected from the standpoint of following these directions. So just really, if you happen to know that at the time, you pick a date, and then the on-site date obviously needs to be something further out than the requested ship date. So we pick that. We hit save. And then you're going to get prompted here that a quote has to be created before the opportunity probability hits 70%, so we go to create a quote. And again, it is required, but it's not necessarily required at this particular moment. But in all scenarios, you probably are ready to do a quote for an opportunity in minutes or hours or days. I don't know. Every scenario is a little different, but either way, that's the next stage. So here's where we would go into create a new quote. And just as a footnote, this training is focusing mostly on the general system navigation and whatever, as much as possible what everything means. If you are interested in a deeper dive into quoting, in other words, you want to learn how to quote more, you want to know how to quote better, whatever it might be, Jeff Kurth is also doing simultaneous calls this week that will be focused on the power users. And you can join those. Just send me an email if you want to participate in those as well, because he's going to really just focus on quoting and just go into a much deeper dive versus myself just sketching over it. But the reason that the power users were the power users is because they are, at the end of the day, in Siebel, the majority of the people who create quotes. In other words, they're the ones who generate all this activity in Siebel. They are experts at that. They do it daily. That's really the criteria and the basis of what a power user was. And those are the folks that got the early access into the database to play around with it and become very familiar. And we have a lot of people that are very, very savvy in it now. I'm pretty sure there's people out there that know more about it than myself now, so that's good. But that just let you know if you're interested in that, then send me an email, Jamie Kangas, and I will get you guys added to Jeff Kurt's calendar for quote training. All right. So just to let you guys know, just the way the key relationship between opportunities and quotes, that's really the main thing that I wanted to focus on is forecasting, right? How do you guys get this into the forecast? So once I've selected this as a probability of 70% that I've got to do a quote, I'm going to go in here and create a new quote, and we're just going to do one real fast. Again, not a lot of detail required from an initial standpoint, but we all know that our quotes can get very complex, but we're just going to focus on a real simple one here. So all you're going to have to do is call it a name, and then select the price book that this is going to be on. Once these are key, once you've typed these in a lot, they'll just come right back up, so it's not really having to be queried. So I'm going to click Save, and then I'm going to go here into line items to start creating line items. So two places to go do that here, Edit Quote Line Items here at the top, or you can go down here directly to the Edit Quote Line Items section, which will allow you to start doing your line creation. So this is just a shortcut to get you there. Pretty simple. All right, so we've got the SKU. So let's just pick, there's a limited amount of products in this database, so don't pay no mind to that. So I'm just going to pick one product. So you're just selecting it here as a check. You're going to hit Select. You're going to key in the quantity, any additional discounts that you want to put in there as an example. Hit Save. And now I've got a quote. Here's my line item, here's the description, here's the discount structure, so on and so forth. Again, on Jeff's call, he'll get into more details as far as when these start getting down to 20, 30, 40, 50 line items, maybe creating additional solution set names, maybe creating something called options. He's going to show how to do all that and how to manipulate the data, how to manipulate the way it's presented on the document. A lot of cool things that we did with this tool to allow some flexibility in terms of rearranging things. So it's pretty nice. And then your price, products, totals, all that's going to be reflected here in terms of what's added. Everything's broken down by product category, obviously, so that's going to be filled out. And then what happens next? So once I've created a quote and I'm ready to sort of move that forward, there's some buttons here that we wanted to cover off. So Start Sync. So what does Sync mean? Sync means the ability to coordinate that quote or tie that quote together with the opportunity. So our opportunities in Salesforce are our master record, and quotes are the children of those records. So you can have one opportunity, multiple quotes, multiple versions of that quotes, but it's one opportunity. So as an example, if you have a customer that buys a solution and you're going to quote that solution, and then 2 months later they want to buy that same solution for an office in Singapore or some other location, you could essentially do shortcuts of copying the quote, but then it is a new opportunity. So you just generate a new opportunity, but you don't have to go and recreate everything. You can copy that quote of that prior opportunity, but it does have to be a new opportunity. The Start Sync function is really what draws those things together and what drives the forecast. So once I've got an opportunity in here at 70%, I've got a quote for $20. And when I start Sync, now my opportunity is worth $20, and that's automatically forecasted and rolled up into the forecast from a management perspective. So once we click that, you're going to get this prompt here that will let you know that the line items will replace the opportunity products, which you don't have to put any products in the opportunity. And then we're good to go. So now we have a Mayflower's opportunity that is now worth $20. And then next steps are here would be, in this case, obviously I don't have any products that would require PS notification, but this is the professional services notification. So if you have a quote, a solution that has professional services on it, again, the default right now is set to off, but if it was checked, right here under professional services requested, it would automatically put in the professional services SKU, and then that will go into the professional services Salesforce queue to let them know they have an opportunity to take a look at if they needed to chime in for whatever, opinions or advice or whatever needs to happen. Okay, and then next button obviously is pretty simple, but submit for approval right now, the submit button is set as an auto approval. There will be some additional rules set up from a criteria perspective, but right now as an auto approval, it would go down here to approval history, and then you could see when it was done, the status, who is supposed to be approving it, and then if it's in pending status, it'll show here when it's in complete status or done status, it'll turn green, and then know that that quote's ready to move forward. So right now, like I said, it's set to a default. Okay, and then if you are going to take a quote for yourself to a proposal stage where you actually are going to generate the quote format that we have, our 14, 15-page quote format, that would be in the Create Proposal. So Create Proposal is going to generate the document. So there's a tool that we have integrated into Salesforce called Conga Composer, which essentially is a rendering tool for PDF or Word documents. And you're going to have defaults. So right now, there's two defaults that have been created. There's an Imagine Quote with equipment list, and then Imagine Quote with a discount displayed. Any additional defaults that will be created will be listed here. So down the road, if there's different ones for each region, which there's a few folks that are working on different formats, they'll be listed here. So if I'm happy with this one here for equipment list, I just click on Merge and Download, and it takes just a few seconds to essentially generate the document. We'll let that do its thing here. Okay, so we picked a Word document here, and I click Enable Editing here. I'll make it a little bigger. And what you're going to have here is your cover page. This would be populated with your contact that the quote was generated for, so just know that that's not always going to say Dear Sir or Madam. It's going to actually have their name. It'll talk about the proposal number. So this is as much of a carbon copy as what comes out of Siebel as was humanly possible to create. It's a pretty good representation of it, but this is where that all is. So this would be where my line items would be. So I just put in one simple SKU here, and everything else is just all the legalese, obviously. But this is where it's at, and then you can save this off, and it's ready to go. Okay. So once I'm in this quote again, if I go back to it, I can make revisions. It's going to change that into a different number, and I'll show you guys where that's located. And then obviously if I need to add more line items, I can always go and create more line items. So we created a sort of a unique Imagine quote number structure. So it's all going to be IC number and then the quote number itself. So when I go back here to the Denver Broncos, which I could drill down here into the account name, I could see that I have a quote, and I have an opportunity, and I have all this activity back to it. Drill down here. So in the opportunity itself, again, that's the primary record for this given example. But here's where I go look at the quotes. So this is the section where these will all appear. Again. Old habits. Salesforce is going to generate a quote number regardless. It's just kind of standard functionality. But remember that the IC number is what gets printed on the proposal and what we go off of from just the standard Imagine Communications record. It is here as a hyperlink, so if you click on the quote number, it'll just take you to the Imagine quote number itself. So it's the same place. So just know that that's kind of the place where those will appear. If I have, this opportunity, Mayflowers, I've got 15 quotes, whatever, this is where they're all going to be. One key item of note is, remember back to the syncing, so this is going to show you that out of 2 or 3 quotes, I can only have one syncing at a time, but this will flag which one is being synced so you know which one is active. So let's say I've got this quote, it's worth $80, and I've got another version that's at the list price, which would be $100, and I've got another one where I've got quantity 10, which would be $800. That I can have all these different versions, but I can only have one syncing at a time. And again, we'll cover, Jeff's training covers much more detail in terms of managing that, and again, the intricacies of the creating, of the manipulating the SKUs, and all that good stuff. He gets more detailed into that. All right, so we've got about 12 minutes left. Let's go here to, there's definitely some more details to cover, guys, but I mean, I'm trying to get into the most important things, which would be, for you guys, how do I find my data? How do I see my customers? How do I keep track of things without having to go search all over the system? So let's jump back real quick to opportunities here from a list view perspective. So again, the default for my opportunities are going to be just the things that I own. So opportunity owner here on the far right. These are the columns of data that I can see: opportunity name, the account name, if there's a channel partner involved, my close dates, the stages, all that good stuff. But let's say, after I get 500 opportunities in here, or during the given quarter, I just want to see, what the heck I have forecasted. Okay, so what I did is I created my own view called forecasted opportunities. And again, back to that same list view create, and I can select that, and then it would just bring back what I've got forecasted as an example. Or it could be what's closing, by the end of the year. Or another one I created in here, I think it's called second half, which would be anything that's closing after May 31st, from just splitting the year in two. It would just display that. So if you think about this, there's going to be lots of different criteria how you guys want to, track this, but just know to kind of keep sanity and keep things clean, creating these list views, again, is your best friend. It is just the ability to I only want to see what I want to see. This is the best place to go create that. And again, just by creating new view, and you can have lots of different ways to play around with this. Just to let you know, if anything doesn't work, in other words, it doesn't bring back data, just know that there may not be anything in that data field. So if I had, if I selected billing state and there was just nothing in my account that had a billing state, it's just going to return nothing. So just know that you can edit them any time you want. So if I want to go and say the second half of 2015, well, I want to change that. So here I've got close date greater than May 31st, and I say, well, I'm going to do the fourth quarter. So then I can pick again anything after September 30th as an example. So just know that this is just a great way to keep things clean, because again, with all opportunities, as you get a whole bunch of these in here, it's going to be harder to track, but the list views are really the best way to do it. Okay. So then let's jump in here. It's a good segue to reports and dashboards. So I've explained a couple of times in the past that list views are one version of a report that is more of the visual representation. So in other words, run me a quick report on my second half opportunities, and I see them, and I can play around with them and do whatever. Versus a report is something I could do the same thing, but then I can take that data and I can export that out into Excel and play around with it in any different way I want. Or I could do a dashboard to graphically represent that same data. That's kind of the way I explain the main differences. List views are just every day how I work, how I navigate in the system to save me time, and then a report is something that I may want to present to my management, or just want to keep track myself, or just want to figure out different ways that I can create some visual ways to see my information to make me more efficient. Whatever it might be, the reports are there. So going in here to reports, you're going to have access to quite a bit of stuff, but just to know that reports right now are going to be pretty open, and it's up to everybody if they want to learn how to do it. It's pretty simple, but this could be things that the power users can help you with as well in regards to maybe generating or creating a report for a specific timeline or a specific piece of information. Maybe you want to see how's my millennial business doing within the quarter, or what did I do last year. It's pretty free to create whatever kind of representation of that account base you want, but this is the location where you have these, and you'll have some kind of canned default reports. There's tons of things, from an opportunity perspective. You've got all these different types that you can go and click on, and then manipulate as you see fit. So this one here is an example, is an opportunity history report, which would show all the different customers, and then what you've done historically with dollar values and all that kind of stuff. And then if I needed to customize it, then I could go and add some additional data, drag these fields. I mean, there's a whole guided tour on creating reports. I don't expect you guys to become experts. I understand that, but just know that it's a pretty open system. This is one of the values of Salesforce, is just to be able to manipulate and look at data in multiple different ways. Sometimes it sheds light on things that you didn't realize, sometimes it doesn't, but either way, it is available to you guys. So as an example, like this dashboard that we looked at here on the home page, this is where this is located. It's called Sales Rep Dashboards. And this is what you actually see. So in the home page, you only get the top 3, just from a bit, to keep things clean on the screen. But in reality, this dashboard has 5 reports, which there's also the won opportunities and then pipeline by business unit as an example. So that's what you get when you go to the dashboard tab or the dashboard object, is you'd get that. As well, if you wanted to look at something different, you're going to click on Find My Dashboard. Anything that's been shared out to you guys will be available here. So if operations creates a whole different dashboard because management says, I want everybody to look at stuff this way, then we would push those out, and this is where this would be available, and then you could select and go back and forth as you will. But just know that that's where you'd go find it, and then we could communicate that out. All right. So in the last few minutes, I really want to talk about how do we communicate inside the system, and then how do we get help? How does everybody get help and support because I know, in 60 minutes, you guys can't become experts in this, so we've obviously understand that, and we know that there's we wanted to create some capabilities for you guys to get help and ask questions quickly rather than having to, go through our help desk system. So just know that nothing right now, you guys will not need to be on the help desk ticket system for this at all. This is all going to be managed by the sales operations team and the power users from the standpoint of being able to get help with, hopefully not too many login resets. It's a pretty simple process, but just, how-tos, right? Just, hey, I know you showed me how to do this, but how do you do it again? I don't remember. I don't expect everybody to memorize everything. We still got another week or so before you get your login, so there's definitely going to be a gap of knowledge, understood. But I just wanted to cover that up. So how Salesforce works, this is just a great tool called Chatter. So Chatter is very simply just internal social networking within the system. It's a very free flow model that just allows you to communicate with people dynamically, with people in groups, share subjects, talk about deals, talk about strategy, talk about whatever you want, right? It's just a model that we've set up. So when you guys get this set up, and I've recorded a 10 or 12-minute video on the YouTube site that kind of covers the whole thing of how to set it up and how to use it. But what we want to do is in the live environment, we're going to have groups, and groups are essentially just a conglomeration of people or serves for a specific purpose. So in the test environment here, we set up a couple of different groups. So we call one quoting Q&A. And this is essentially a group that you can join that has a discussion about quoting. So maybe you have a question, maybe you forgot how to do something, you could find the answers to that, or you could post a question to this, and anybody that's in this group will be able to chime in and respond back to you either immediately or within minutes or whatever. But just know that that's going to be available to you guys, and we have them broken down by region. So we'll have obviously North America, Asia, Latin America, and EMEA as far as groups, and you can join those. So when you get to these groups, you'll see that you can click join, which means you'll be typically in there. It's an open group, and if it shows ask to join, it means that the owner, Craig Byers here as an example, set that to private, which means he'll get a notification that says, hey, can I join, and he'll say yes or no. So you have the ability to create your own group, and you could set it as private, meaning that only those people in that group collaborate and share that knowledge or information, or if it's open, it really goes out to everybody. So what you have here is a feed, which means just kind of your normal place where you can go post anything you want. I'm working on something, yada, yada, whatever it could be. Pretty simple. This has the ability to attach files. It has the ability to attach URLs. And then two key things here. If you want to send, so here you can just type in whatever you want, obviously, but if you want to send a message to a specific person, it's very, very simple. You just type in the @ sign, and you start typing in their first name, and it's going to bring up whoever you want. So let's just, I want to say, send something to Jeff Gordon. That is going to send this message to Jeff Gordon, and he'll get that in his Chatter feed. if you want to talk about a topic or reference a topic in your post, you would hit the pound sign, and that focuses the topic on, I'll pick Selenium here, so I can say Selenium Flex file. So then anybody that is interested in finding out something about Selenium Flex file could go do a search for that, and whatever it might be, you can key that in, and then that's going to be broadcasted out, and then that's going to be found by a keyword of Selenium Flex. So anything that was in the Selenium Flex thread of talking about would be displayed here. As well as the more we use this as a company, the more things that the system will suggest based on a track record. So let's just say there's 500 chatter things on Selenium Flex. Well, there's probably going to be a Selenium Flex group that you should join, and this is where you do it, and this is where they'll show up. And then that way you can stay up on that topic. The reason that this is really powerful, guys, is that this is instantaneous. They're not waiting around for anything. So if there's 400 people logged into the system and they're all in that group, keying this stuff in is live and dynamic, and people can respond to things quickly. So that's the biggest benefit. So when it comes to support, we are going to have these groups for the regions, and that's going to be tied into myself and Jeff Kurth and then the power users, and we should be able to get to you guys from a response perspective pretty quickly. The other area that we selected, if you happen to find any particular sort of like defects, and the cases object here will be loaded on your home page already, but selecting a case would be where you do it, and this is kind of a messy view, unfortunately, but it'll just have one option for Salesforce related. You key in new, and then you're just going to have to select a subject, and then type in, this is broken, whatever it might be. And then that is going to be in a queue that we will monitor and take a look at, and then we'll just be able to either get those things fixed or escalated, or obviously note it as a defect or a bug or wherever it might be. Save those for just any chronic issues that you see. The chatter is really more for how-tos and then getting immediate answers, but this is kind of our ticketing system for now. We're trying to make it easy for you guys. We're trying to make it, where you stay in the system, not have to log into anything else, and certainly not have to use VPN. Okay, so we kind of almost reached the top of the hour, and again, I have to keep these tight because I've got 7 more throughout the day. So I'll go ahead and wrap this up. Again, if any particular topics that I didn't touch on, I'll focus on more as well in the next sessions. But again, you guys are free to join these additional sessions or watch the recordings, obviously. But it's tough to cover everything in an hour, and I know that's why we did multiple sessions, kind of at a very fast pace. But really, guys, the rest of the system's really, really simple. Just takes time to play around with it. But from a sales rep perspective, and I've been in this system as a sales rep. I've been in Siebel as a sales rep. I've done a lot of different jobs in my career, and from a CRM system, all I really want it to do for me is make it simple to track my customers, make it simple to provide them data and information, and then just make it simple for myself to track my performance and see how I'm doing. I don't necessarily have the intent of becoming an expert, but I do want to know enough to just make my life easy and be able to do my job without having to be burdened. I didn't even really get a chance to touch too much on the mobile site, but obviously you guys, if you have iPhones, you have Androids, you have iPads, download the Salesforce One app. Just go out to the app stores and download that. When you get your credentials, it'll be the same thing as your desktop, and you'll have a lot of power to to manipulate and control your customer base from your mobile devices as well. There's some tutorials that we put out there as well for it, but it's pretty straightforward. I mean, if you know how to use the system on your laptop, using it on the phone is just a condensed version, just relative screens to stay on topic to what you want. But being able to create an opportunity from your phone, yes, you can do